Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 2024 ACS National Convention. Welcome to our members, old and new. Welcome to the members of the ACS Board of Directors, and particularly our Chairman, Roscoe Jones, and our former Chairman, Peter Karanja. We want to welcome our Board of Advisors, our Board of Academic Advisors, and all the lawyer and student chapters who are here. Welcome, of course, to all the familiar faces that I've had a chance to see at past conventions, and to those of you that are attending for the first time. I, of course, want to extend a special thanks to our sponsors and to the extraordinary honorees, their families and friends, and to our honored speakers and panelists who will share their expertise and insights over the next few days. I also want to share my deep appreciation and gratitude for ACS's incredible staff, whose hard work has not only made this unique convention possible, but it also enables ACS to advance its mission in the face of enormous challenges to our democracy, to our fundamental rights, and to the rule of law. I got to tell you, they are functioning very, very well in a very tough time, and I've seen it in D.C., and I've seen it all over the country. It's a fantastic group of people. And I also want to offer a special thank you to the family of Bob Worth for the generous donation that enabled ACS to establish the Bob Worth Fund for defending the separation of church and state and the First Amendment. Bob Worth, the founder and CEO of Worth Publishers, who passed away in May of last year, was a firm believer in the First Amendment and the importance of the separation of church and state. Like so many of us, he was alarmed by the steady erosion of the wall of separation, which is among the defining projects of the conservative-captured Supreme Court. Through the Bob Worth Fund, ACS is able to dedicate more time and resources to highlighting and combating this erosion, and we couldn't be more grateful to Mr. Worth and his whole family. I'd like you to applaud them for that. It's great to be in the South for the first time for this event. Thank you, Atlanta, Georgia, for welcoming ACS and our network of progressive lawyers and law students, judges, policymakers, and advocates to your beautiful city. And we thank you especially to the workers of Unite here, Local 23. Their hard work and professionalism have ensured we can come together in this space to celebrate and learn more about the progressive legal movement. Unions are the backbone of this country, and ACS is proud to support and partner with them. So at this convention this year, 95 of our student and lawyer chapters from across the country are represented at this convention, and I couldn't be more thrilled with that. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. ACS has an incredible network of student and lawyer chapters that provide us with enormous grassroots power across the country, and I've seen it all over the country this year. I spent a week in Texas, we were in Nebraska, we were in Missouri, we were in Kansas, we were all over the red states. And there are ACS people fighting hard in every single one of those states. So that made me feel wonderful, and I'm sure all of you agree. Now, as many of you already know, I have announced that I'll be stepping down as president of ACS next April 2025. I don't want to focus a lot on that right now. I'll say a bit at the end. But I want to focus on what I've witnessed in the past 4 years of leading this organization and how proud I am of the grassroots activism that springs from the chapters and individuals who comprise the ACS network. Without them, without you, none of our work would be possible. And chief among that work is our Path to the Bench project. When I arrived at ACS in 2020, actually March 9th, 2020, that's supposed to be a laugh line, there were 30 Path to the Bench working groups in 25 states. Over the past 4 years, the number has grown to 55 working groups in 42 states. And those numbers don't even capture the increased engagement of our members within these working groups, and the quality and the diversity, both professional and personal, that it represents in terms of the candidates that they have recommended. Our Path to the Bench working groups have recommended 614 judicial candidates, with 115 of those recommended interviewing with the commission, interviewing with senators, having their names sent to the White House, or interviewing with the White House. Out of this administration's 234 judicial nominees, 70 are actually recommendations from our Path to the Bench working groups or are otherwise affiliated with ACS. You know, I'm honored. I am truly honored to be part of this work, but the credit for these tremendous achievements belongs to the ACS members who live and work in these communities around the country and participate in our Path to the Bench working groups. Their role is completely unique. No one else in this country is doing this from a progressive point of view, and we are essential in that regard. Their grassroots efforts identifying promising and diverse judicial candidates in their local communities is pivotal in creating the pipeline that carries those names to the ears of senators and senior White House officials who are working with ACS every day and our allies to shape the future of our federal judiciary. And rest assured, neither ACS nor the members of our working groups are taking our foot off the pedal, even though things have gone quite well. We now have 201 confirmations under President Biden, and the Senate is slightly outpacing judicial confirmations at this point compared to that last administration. Still a little bit ahead. But just as important is the phenomenal and historic diversity of these nominees. Almost 70% are women. Almost 70% are people of color. This has never happened before in the history of this country, and you should be so proud that you've all been part of that. It is absolutely vital, though, to finish the job this year. Although we're certainly hoping that more such activity can continue in the future, this year we have to continue it, keep our foot on the pedal, and make sure that the Senate has to take up every judicial nomination submitted by the White House, and ACS and our members are sending that message every single day. I'm also so proud of our student chapters. It wasn't long after I joined ACS, as I just alluded to, that the world was kind of turned around, and there was a period of unprecedented disruption. Our student chapters have done an amazing job of rejuvenating and re-energizing the chapters on their campuses. As I've traveled throughout the country visiting chapters over the past few years, I've witnessed firsthand the impressive and inspiring work of our student members who have devoted themselves to strengthening their chapters and the entire ACS network. Just one example was right in Washington, D.C., where I was invited to give a talk at the George Washington School of Law at American University, and sure enough, it was just a bunch of 1Ls who created this thing, all by themselves, and they have created a marvelous chapter at a law school that did not have a chapter for a while. For those student chapters that we are honoring tonight, and to the students who have traveled to be with us, I want you to know that you and the students in your chapters back home are really just so much the lifeblood and future of our progressive legal network. The progressive legal movement must be a multi-generational movement, and it is your dedication and commitment that it is carrying it into the future. Speaking of student chapters, the strength of any student chapter can often be predicted by the strength and commitment of its faculty advisors. ACS relies on faculty advisors to provide our students the guidance to maintain vibrant and active chapters that carry the message of the progressive legal movement. And the person we are honoring as this year's ACS's Faculty Advisor of the Year is just the epitome of a strong and committed guide for his student chapter. I'm honored to celebrate Fred Geddix of Brigham and Young University's J. Reuben Clark Law School as the 2024 ACS Faculty Advisor of the Year. Professor Geddix has been an active member of ACS's network for as long as ACS has existed. In fact, at BYU, he served as faculty advisor to one of the very first chapters in the nation, and one might not have assumed that BYU would be one of the first chapters in the nation. Thanks to his guidance and support, we now have an active and strong chapter on the BYU campus. And beyond serving as faculty advisor, Professor Geddix has provided ACS with thought leadership on many issues regarding the First Amendment and the separation of church and state over the years, and received national attention in recent years when he coordinated a letter from quite a few BYU law professors supporting then Judge Jackson's nomination to the U.S. Supreme Court. As we know, Justice Jackson was ultimately confirmed, and there was a supporting vote from a Republican U.S. Senator from Utah, and you were instrumental in doing that. Please stand again. We are so delighted. I'd also like to take a moment to remember another longtime ACS supporter and a founding member of the ACS Board of Advisors, Christopher Edley, Jr., who passed away last month. Among his many accomplishments, Chris served as Dean of Berkeley Law for nearly a decade, where he transformed the law school's hiring, increased support for students seeking careers in public interest, and oversaw the creation of several centers at that law school. He previously taught at Harvard Law and held positions in 2 presidential administrations and 5 presidential campaigns. He was also a mentor to countless professors and law students along the way, together with the rest of the legal community. Its ACS and its staff and its members mourn Chris's passing. Dean Edley and Professor Geddix are just 2 examples of the incredible, talented, and dedicated lawyers and law students at the heart of our network. Our members can be found in communities throughout the country, and they are the vanguard of the progressive legal movement. And all of that is one of the reasons why we decided to take the National Convention for the first time outside of D.C. this year, and why we're here in Atlanta in the South. As I say, in my travels, I have found strong progressive communities all throughout the country, including in the South and other conservative areas. This is reflected in the vibrant and active student and lawyer chapters I've had the honor to meet with and hear about. Contrary to conventional wisdom, there are energized and enthusiastic progressives in even the reddest of places, and ACS is dedicated to engaging with those progressive communities. But it's also in these conservative strongholds that we all know that we see the most aggressive and dangerous attacks on voting, reproductive rights, LGBTQ rights, attacks on the movement for racial justice, attacks against the separation of church and state. That is why much of our programming today and tomorrow is focused on this reality. That is also why, in the coming year, ACS's theme and our focus will be justice everywhere, securing constitutional rights in every community. Make no mistake, this is not new work for ACS or for the progressive legal movement, but at a time when too many fundamental rights depend on where you happen to live, it is certainly an effort worth highlighting. I look forward to taking full advantage of these 3 days of community and connection and collaboration. I hope you'll do the same. Finally, just a word about my final year with this organization as president. We are a nonpartisan 501c3. So I've had to keep my mouth shut at times. That's not an easy thing for me to do. I wasn't used to doing that. And I'm sort of looking forward to the gag order being lifted. But you know what? I have never felt constrained when it comes to protecting our Constitution, our democracy, and the rule of law. Why? Because every single day, everywhere in this country, including right here in the heart of the South, we challenge the manipulation of judicial appointments for partisan gain. Every day we call out the U.S. Supreme Court's opportunistic myth-making, textualism, originalism, which is a pretext to deny women's and all of our rights. Every day we call out the brutal attack on voting rights that so many people fought and died for throughout our history. Every day we insist on the abolition of the death penalty. Every day we call on this president to publish the 28th Amendment to the United States Constitution, which has been kicking around for 100 years. The Equal Rights Amendment should be published because it is part of the Constitution of the United States. And every day, we firmly stand against outright lies and the encouragement of political violence by those who don't believe in our system of government. We do all this and more. We will do all this and more, and I'll be right there with you. And when I'm home in Middleton, Wisconsin, I'm going to proudly fly my American flag upright. Because when you do it right, what it stands for more than anything else is the rule of law and the Constitution of the United States. Thank you for the honor of being your president, and have a great time here in Atlanta.